is fantastic that you guys are here today. Samara, you get right there, boy. You're going to be in the zone. Hey, fantastic day to worship God today. Fantastic day. You know what? When I look back over my life, I can never remember one time God ever let me down. Not once. He's faithful from the start to the finish. He's faithful to take care of us. It's been a kind of a rough week around the Jackson house this week. One of Bev's good friends lost her life. Taught with her for 7 years. The person that has sacrificed her whole life basically for others. Took in a boy that was not her own. Took him in, raised him, taking care of elderly parents. If you didn't hear about the tragedy in Neosho, an absolute tragedy and an absolutely horrific thing for people to see and witness. There's some kiddos and some teachers that have been forever altered. Children dealing with something that is incomprehensible for an adult to deal with. Bev that was her teaching team for 7 years. Teacher friends of hers that can't hardly, she was talking about one can't sleep. She was literally standing beside the lady. And here's the thing, you go, I thought you said God was faithful. Oh man, God is. He's right in the middle of all that. We can't ever doubt His goodness and His faithfulness. Because I guarantee you, He is being seen out of this tragedy and this horrific event. He's being seen. God's always faithful. He's always faithful. And He always will take care of us. Let's pray. God, I love you. And I thank you for always being God. God, sometimes we want to insert our power in what we think is best, and God, we just don't have it figured out. The only thing that we can do is lean on an always good God that is big enough to take on the worst situations. You're not up there wringing your hands wondering if everything's going to be okay. God, you're still God, and you're still on the throne, and you still love us. God, in the face of horrible tragedy and ugly loss and things that just people can't understand and can't wrap their head around, God, it's not for us to question your goodness in it. But it's to ask you to be seen in the middle of it all. Father, we love you. Thank you for dying on the cross for our sins. Bless this day. In your amazing name I pray. Amen. You may be seated. It is so good you're here this morning. I mean, fantastic. Y'all are a good-looking group. So I'm always got to be on my best behavior when Mom's here, because she can straighten me up. So Monica, you don't have to worry about, I'll be good today, okay? So Monica's usually watching me and making sure I'm being good, because she gets me if I'm not. I like to mess with Monica. She's sweet. If you don't think Monica's sweet, you probably got something wrong with you. You know what I'm talking about? That's one of those people like that. So that's except Blaine's like, I don't know, not always. Monica's a sweet girl. So, I wore my Arkansas Razorback shirt. Boy, fits just right, Larry. My message today is, who do you say that I am? And I was listening to that Lauren Daigle song, and that kind of inspired me on this message. And this is going to be kind of a tough message today, parts of it. I don't want to sound too calloused or mean or rough, but Todd and Anthony always gripe at me for stepping on their toes and stuff. So I don't want to hurt anybody or say anything, but I want to tell you what I feel God wants me to say. And but who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And my question to you is, has any of you all ever gone through an identity crisis? A crisis of who you are. Ben, I love your shirt, by the way. That's a good shirt. That looks good. He's got a Superman shirt on. When I know it's going to be a pretty good day when Ben and Bill are here. If I get both Ben and Bill here, because I know that those are two guys I can depend on to have my back. The other guys in here, no. They're out to get me. Always out to get me. And I don't appreciate it sometimes, and they act better when Grandma's here, I think. So if y'all mess with me today, I'll sit Grandma on you, Anthony. Todd, jerks. Okay. But if you ever went through an identity crisis, this is one thing I said I hope our church never changes. I hope we can have a conversation in the middle of service. I like that. Who am I really? What turns my crank? What do I like? How do I like my eggs cooked? Have you ever thought about that? How do you like your eggs cooked? Is it Ford or Chevy? On a quiet night, you can hear a Ford rust. No, just kidding. Snow or the beach? See, for me and Allie, it would probably be the snow, and for Eli and Bev, it'd be the beach. Travel or homebody? I kind of like to see places. I like to go. Coffee or iced coffee? Or coffee or tea, however you want to do it. Since I live in Mack County, do we hunt from the road or from the stand? I mean, it's a preference. I mean, it's who do you say that I am? Yesterday, oh my goodness. This is what I'm talking about being harassed. It's raining, and they're going to have a bow shoot, and I called Cody, and I'm like, dude, it's raining. I don't know that I want to stand in the rain and shoot targets. And Anthony, I call him, and he's like, yeah, I'm going if it's just, they're mouthing. And Anthony starts calling me a sis and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I'm just smart. I don't see any reason to go stand in the rain and shoot our bows. But then I told him, I said, why don't y'all make it more realistic? I said, you can just drive around and shoot the targets out the window. You can get in practice that way. So I'm not saying they road hunt. I'm not that one. I'm not. Ham or sausage? Catch and release or kill 'em and grill 'em? That's funny. Hogs or Sooners? See, I'm wearing this shirt today for Larry. Larry is, he bought me a shirt. And I told him, I said, man, I'll wear it. Now, if you kept up with any football yesterday, you know the Colorado State Sheep or Rams or somebody beat the poor Razorbacks. And it appears by my identity that I'm calling the Hogs. But is it hot in here to you guys? Mm-hmm. It's getting hot. It feels warm in here. This shirt, I want to take this old nasty shirt off. I got to take this. I feel a lot cooler now. Hey, I'm going to hang on to that, Larry. Okay, you know what? I may have to do a sewer project or something. You always want to wear those comfortable shirts. That thing's a just right fitting shirt, I can tell you, buddy. So, I mean, it's a nice one. It's thick, it's heavy, it's just warm today. I had to take it off. Just don't. That's not my true identity. UCLA scored first yesterday. And I'm like, oh no. And I feel it, and I'm into the game. I'm a Sooner fan. I've been a Sooner fan. They're my favorite Southeast Conference team. The Hogs are. I don't like any of them really down there. But anyways. But I wanted to make Larry happy, but that's not my true identity. Here's who I am. This is who I am. I'm a Sooner fan. There's two things I want you to get today. It is extremely dangerous and sloppy when we choose our own identity. This is where it's going to get a little bit tough. When we choose our own identity, it becomes extremely dangerous and sloppy. We have these crazy, outlandish ideas that we become what we identify with. And this is all through the news, these new identities. I mean, I could literally go out and buy $50,000 worth of deer hunting equipment and kill a doe that weighs 70 pounds just so I could identify with being a hunter. People, we don't make the team, so now we aren't good at anything. I didn't make the team, so I'm not good at anything now. I didn't get invited, therefore I'm not wanted. I've been hurt, therefore I'm broken forever. I don't like who I am, so I will identify with a different gender, group, or whatever. Wyatt Griffith, here a while back, told us he identified with an Apache attack helicopter. I kind of like that one. Wyatt, he's funny like that. These beliefs that we tag ourselves with gives us the right to identify or be whatever we want. And that road has been taken by so many people in all areas of life, and the devastation is incalculable. We identify with something that we contrive and make up. Remember, I said it was dangerous and sloppy to create our own identities. How is it dangerous? We as human beings are these feeling machines. Oh, and this is going to get pretty deep. We're feeling machines. Man, we're all about feelings. And whatever the situation, whatever's going on, the first part of us that arrives first is our feelings. And our feelings arrive, and they make a judgment call that the rest of our being follows. Any accident, anything. You talk to these guys that are working on these ambulance crews and all this stuff. You go, how do you do that? And I guarantee you they compartmentalize. They show up on the scene of something horrific. And they squish the feelings aside and they do the job that needs to be done. Lauren Daigle sings that song, You Say, and we're going to sing that song at the end of service. And it asks this horrendously important question. It says, am I more than just a sum of every high and low? Am I more than just a sum of every high and low? We live these lives that they're mountaintop high and they're Grand Canyon deep. Mountaintop high, Grand Canyon deep. And our emotions and our feelings, it just tracks. And we see these great things and we're high as a kite, and we see these awful things and we're Grand Canyon low, and we're just literally chasing emotions. And that's how we start forming who we are. Our feelings have a tendency, I want you to listen to this, our feelings have a tendency to funnel our response to life to the greatest of either high or low. Did you hear what I said? Our feelings funnel our tendencies. If we see something bad, it's immediately as bad as it can be. If we see something good, it's the greatest thing we've ever saw. We can read a text message and instantly our blood is boiling and we can't get the reply sent back quick enough to tell somebody what we're thinking. When I talked to teens a lot, when I was a youth pastor, I would say 5 seconds. 5 seconds can literally change your life forever. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change your life forever. You have a dream date, a chance meeting that leads to a decision that literally can destroy you. And just the opposite. A chance comes along, a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and we're too scared to take a chance, and we walk away and we miss out on an amazing journey in life. When we follow what is our emotional highs or lows, it can not only destroy how we see ourselves. I want you to listen to this. When we follow our emotional highs and lows, it can not only destroy how we see ourselves, but it can destroy our perception of how others see us. Bev and I were having a conversation last night. It's kind of funny. We have this mutual guy. He used to be one of my bosses. And this guy is always very careful with his words. And he's always supersonic professional. And he's a good dude. And Bev like goes, every time I'm around that guy, it feels like I put my foot in my mouth. And I go, me too. I do too. I feel like the same thing, like I always say the wrong thing because he's always super careful and kind of quiet and reserved, and you never know. And so you're trying to strike up a conversation and have friendly banter with this guy, and it's this deal where you never know exactly what to say to him. But our highs and lows can destroy our perception of how others see us. We think the worst. This is a phrase that I hate, and maybe why I hate it is because it's true. And that is perception is reality. Perception is reality. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. How we perceive something is truth to us. How we perceive things is what we believe. And if that's what we believe, then all of a sudden that's what we mark down as truth. I said building your own identity is dangerous. How's that for dangerous? We literally can build our own prison by our perceptions of reality. How is it sloppy when we choose our own identity? It's simple. We become what we consider our best self. We become what we consider our best self. How often do I try to make myself into what is trending? If I'm trying to become my best self and then my emotional state sees what is trending and I go from this is who I am to this is trending, so I need to become that, that becomes incredibly sloppy. And here's why. Kids and people that are the closest to us are the ones that are usually hurt the worst. So often we chase dreams or have unchecked appetites that aren't compatible with the people in my life. When I went to the doctor the other day and the guy's like, dude, your levels of sugar in your blood shows that you're diabetic. That's a problem. Kevin's got to do something about that. It's become a way of life now. Can't allow that anymore. Unless I want my wife and kids to not have dad around. It scared me. I had to take control over that. But my appetite for what feels good and seems great at the moment is killing me. So we chase these dreams and we have these unchecked appetites that aren't compatible with the people around us. I love to see people that put everything on hold to make everyone else better. You've got a guy sitting in your service right now that I believe does that. And he didn't know I was going to say this about him today. There's old Willie sitting back there. Have you seen that gaggle of kids that boy brings into church and he hangs around with? I love it. He puts his life on hold for everybody else. Him and his wife, they take in these kids and they have their own kids and they've got, I don't know, I still haven't all sorted it out. But I told him one of the first times I met him and I seen different races of kids. And he was like, oh, this is my kid and this is my kid. And my head's swirling. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? And how many kids do you have? And I go, man, I like being around people like you. Because it's not about him and his wife. It's pretty apparent it's not about him and his wife. It's about making an impact on people. He's working on his teaching degree, and he's got all these kids, and he's a football coach, and it's all about kids and all about. I'd love to ask him the last time he went fishing, but it hadn't happened often. This guy sells out basically for his family. Kids at school. I mean, he could probably retire off his junior high football stipend. I'm glad you were here today, Willie. I wanted to brag on you. Putting everything on hold to make everybody else's life better. Instead of noticing what we have in our life race, all I notice a lot of times are the people that have passed me. Instead of looking around and looking at what I've got that's so daggone awesome, I look at all the people that look like they're going past me. I get on Facebook and I see somebody got a new boat or their kid hit a grand slam and knocked in the winning run, or they bought a new house, or they did this, and I go, man, that looks cool, man. I wish I was. And I'm sitting here and I'm like on a pot of gold, and I've got the greatest thing cooking. I've got the best family I could ever ask for. I live in a cool house. People come in and go, well, I like your house. I have so much more than I deserve. But when I have to start identifying with everything else and I have to put my identity with something else, man, I miss it. And when we see people we think are passing us, that prompts us to change our identity. And when we start changing our identity to jump on the next thing smoking, we have this identity crisis that becomes an incredibly sloppy representation of what someone of quality character looks like to the people around us. So I've laid out all this negative stuff for you. It's not negative. It's good stuff. I want to give you some help here. So what is the answer for this? Simple. It's really simple. Instead of identifying with an Apache attack helicopter, or as Allie would say, a ninja, cracks me up. She says she's going to be a ninja. The world's shortest, smallest ninja. It's funny. So the answer is this. It's simple. Instead of identifying with what we want, we identify with what the author of our lives saw in us from the very beginning. The psalmist said this in Psalms 139, 13 and 18. That's Psalms, Anthony, not Pisms. It's Psalms. Verse 13 says this. This is such a good, we should all read this every week, like a couple of times a week. You know what I mean? Listen to this. And this is going on inside of Shannon's belly right now. This is cool. Think about Shannon's belly. Well, think about what's in Shannon's belly right now as we read this. It says, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Did you hear that? Every day of my life, he already sees it. Isn't that cool? Time, space, and matter. Remember when I talked about that? My God is outside of time, space, and matter. So when he sees us, he sees our lives. He don't go, I wonder what's going to happen with Kevin tomorrow. Man, it's like it's a big, huge printout, and it's like he can see it all at one thing. And he sees my yesterday, he sees my right now, and he sees my tomorrow all at the same time. Because time, space, and matter don't affect my God. Oh, that's so good. Isn't that good? Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out. Therefore, laid out before a single day had ever passed. I love that, man. We serve a God that has our tomorrow figured out. How precious, listen to this, how precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. My God thinks about me so much. It's more than all the grains of sand in our world. And He's got all this other stuff to think about, and He thinks about me that much. I don't need to identify with what I think, because I'm fickle at best. But it's pretty obvious what my God thinks of me and you. This God of ours puts thought into you and I. He was not like some infomercial and set it and forget it, and it'll come out in 9 months, all will be good. No, He was the designer, the architect, and the builder. He didn't miss a moment when He created us. You and I were something incredibly important. Guess what? And I want you to get this, because this is where we go down the road feeling sorry for ourselves. Guess what? You and I have not lost our value in God's eyes. You are not some old rusty Ford Ranger sitting out in the back pasture. You're a 55 Chevrolet, and you are getting more valuable every day. You and I are a highly valuable piece of machinery. Somewhere, a lot of folks stop believing that. You are highly valuable, but somewhere down the road, we stop believing that. I've got too many dents. I've hit the curb way too many times. My damage is too great. My hurt is too ugly. My contributions are no longer needed. That's the biggest crock of baloney that we've ever been fed in our life. Instead of getting up in the morning and looking in the mirror and seeing all the wrong things, all of my wrinkles and all of my age marks, when we get up in the morning, I want you to try this in the morning. I want you to go look in the mirror in the morning with your hair all a mess if you got any. And I want you to just say one word. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and I want you to say, Corvette. Corvette. Dude, I am built. I am built to shine. I am built to look like something that is important, because by George, we are important. So how do we identify with what God thinks? How do we do this? It's another simple one. We must get in a place to hear God's voice in our life. God has all these wonderful things to say to His kiddos, but we have to be able to hear His voice. The problem is, when we have another voice that speaks louder than His voice, then we can't hear Him. We have to ask God to silence. Listen to this. Ask God to silence all other voices in our lives. You know what? I think it's pretty cool when my wife goes, "You look cute today." I like that. That's not who I am, though. If I go from one wife compliment to the next wife compliment, and that's how I live my life, I'm a hot mess. That's just a topping on the cake. My Father in heaven has already ordained my days, and He's told me I'm pretty important, and His is the only voice that matters. We have to ask God to silence all the voices, stop the emotion train, and listen to what He has to say. He becomes, listen to this is huge. He becomes the dominant voice only when we ask Him to come into our lives. He's not a rude God. He needs our permission. He isn't going to kick down the door of our heart and waltz in and say, listen here, fella, I'm home. He has to be invited. So when He comes in, here's the deal. When He comes in, His words are what we can identify with. When He makes His home in my heart, yeah, I hear other voices, and yeah, I start listening, but man, I got to get back to center. The world starts chirping, and I start noticing it, and all this, and I get my eyes off of God, and things start unraveling, and I got to refocus, and I got to recenter, because I got to bring it back in. Miss Hayes' death, horrendously tragic. But I can promise you one thing. I guarantee you there's a lot of people that refocused where it needed to be. And this is the stuff that God tells us. This is the kind of stuff that God talks to us about. When we hear His voice, this is the kind of stuff He says. He tells us we're a new person. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old is gone. A new life has begun. He tells us that He lives inside of. He said, my old self was crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. So already I'm a new person, and here's why. Because God now lives inside of me. He also says I'm His friend in John 15, verses 14 and 15. He says I'm a friend. I'm a friend. And not only am I a friend, but I have the right to be called His kid. But to all who believed Him and accepted Him, He gave the right to become children of God. Corvette! My dad's a king! I don't need you to tell me how bad I am or how good I am. I'm a Corvette. I'm something special. I don't care how many times Anthony and Todd gives me a hard time about something. I'm something special. Ben, you should wear that shirt every day. I mean, wash it. Maybe get a couple of them so you can keep them on rotation. We all need to think of ourselves as supermen and women. We're something special. I used to have a shirt that said, I'm a keeper. I need to get me another one of them. God, He made me. He redeemed me, made me into a brand new rig. He lives in me. I'm His friend and His kid, all rolled into one big package. I don't need to identify with some half-baked notion that I come up with on an emotional roller coaster. I have intrinsic motivation. It's this motivation that comes from just being God's kid. The thing that comes from within. It just tells me who I am. Something that just comes with the package of being God's son. God's kids don't have to wander around having an identity crisis. When our identity is based on His opinion of us, the game changes. Life changes because the voice has changed. Amen? Who is your voice? Who's doing the talking? Who do you, God, who do you say that I am? See, If you walk out of here with your chin on your chest, it's your fault. It's your fault. If you have a crummy week, get up in the morning and go, it's your fault. Because your God has made it possible that you can identify with Him and be His kid. And in the middle of unthinkable tragedies, in the middle of unbelievable mountaintops, we can stay centered, plumb, on level, because of who He is and who we are in Him. I want to give you a chance. If there's someone here that goes, man, Kevin, I want what you're talking about. If you're one of these people that are like going, man, I'm struggling, Kevin. I'm hurting. I don't know what to do. Man, my identity's been in everything else but God. Come and pray. Come and say, God, build my new identity. If you have struggles, take it to Him. You may have never had a relationship with Christ. It sounds bad, but Christ is like the old hound that won't leave you alone. You turn around and it's like you stumble over him every time you're going anywhere. That dog, every time I turn around, you're under my, that's who Jesus is. He's just always right there. And He's like, man, I'm here. If you want to have a relationship with me, I'm right here. We don't have to go like searching Him out. It's not like He's some tricky, hidden God that don't want anything to do with anybody. He's right on our tail. And it doesn't matter how many times we've pushed Him away. It doesn't matter how many times we've suppressed Him. It doesn't matter how many times we've kicked Him to the curb. It doesn't matter. He still comes right back, and He just sucks up right up against us. He's right in our hip pocket, basically, and He's like waiting for us to go, man, I want a relationship with you. I want my identity in you. I want you to change my life forever. And He's like, man, I've been here all along, so come on. It's not a big deal to me. If you walk out of this church today and your chin's on your chest, it's not because of Him not pursuing you. Because He is crazy in love with you. And you have unbelievable value to Him. Unbelievable value. I'm old, I'm washed up, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm this, I'm that. Baloney. Unbelievable value. If you want to pray this morning, I'm going to ask you to come up and just kneel at an altar, and I'll pray with you. And if we have to pray all day, I don't care. But I don't want you to walk out of this church not knowing who Jesus is in your life. That is crazy. As I pray, man, just stand up and come up here. And Anthony and some of these guys, and Bev and Shannon, these guys, they'll be up here praying with you. They won't even hesitate, I guarantee you. Let's pray. God, I love you. God, there's people in this room right now that have been spoken to by your Spirit, God. And I'm asking you right now to make them so stinking brave that they can't help it. They have to be there. They have to be a part of it. God, I'm asking you to speak life into them right now. Father, I'm asking you to be the voice that's talking to people right now. I'm asking you to silence all other voices in our lives, God. And I'm asking you to be the voice that talks to us right now. God, I want my identity to be in you. I don't want my identity to be some cheap, ridiculous idea that I can cut. God, I want my identity to be who you say I am. That's what I want. I love you, God. Thank you for loving